So let's talk a bit destruction here. The winds, actually, we've been talking about, and the winds are a large part of the destructive force of a hurricane, but also are the heavy rains associated with the spiral rain bands. I think it's almost poetic how the weather system traverses an ocean basin, picking up water in its spiral rain bands as it goes across. Remember then, as that water vapor condenses to form those clouds in the spiral rain bands, that actually energy or heat is released. So we have a lot of heat, a lot of energy tied up into one tropical cyclone. So there are also tornadoes, not to make it worse, right? But due to the unstable nature of these thunderstorm cells that are in these spiral rain bands, we'll talk more about tornadoes in the next part. We have tornadoes embedded in the spiral rain bands. Oftentimes the rain causes flooding that actually takes more lives than the wind associated, or the destruction due to the wind. What I started to say is that sometimes this actually rain can be carried inland a fair piece. And so the rain associated with these spiral rain bands is sometimes welcomed for locations that have been in drought otherwise. And then the last one to talk about is this idea of storm surge. Now, storm surge can be kind of likened, I tell students, to if you're in a swimming pool, you put out your arms and you go ahead and you spin around. You carry with your arms a wave of water, and it's that wave of water that actually is what we call the storm surge. As the storm surge occurs, as the weather system goes from the ocean to hits land, so it takes that wall of water with it. So storm surge is most intense in the northern hemisphere on the right side, because you figure it's going, the central low is swinging it counterclockwise, and so we're going to have the most chunk of water being lifted up here on the right side, or sometimes called the east side. So this is kind of just showing you storm surge, and this actually is showing you how a coastal location was, slammed by this wall of water. It's I would say relatively temporary wall of water, but it's a very destructive wall of water. So I want to kind of finish up by saying, how do scientists monitor what's going on in a hurricane or a tropical storm or a tropical depression or disturbance? And one is by understanding what the sea is doing, what the temperatures of the sea are. So this temperatures and pressures. So actually here we have out in the ocean, I'll just kind of circle there, out in the ocean, we actually have these buoys, I'll go over here, that are sending back. The 133 is related to the, wait, I want to say that. Yeah, I think the 133 and the plus 22 are related to pressure, and like the 80 here is related to temperature. So keep an eye on the temperature and pressure using those ocean buoys can be very helpful. This, by the way, is showing you kind of from left to right. This is Hurricane Fran, and this is actually downgraded to Tropical Storm Fran. And you can see that the central low here is 954 millibars, and the central low here is 980. Another important way that scientists can know what's going on is by using airplanes. And the airplanes can actually have monitoring equipment on them, so that as they fly through the storm, they can get some good information with regard to pressure and wind speed at where they are. But they can also drop these drop wind sounds, which is kind of the opposite of a weather balloon, if you're familiar with those. They drop them into the cloud, and they can send back lots of information, including wind speed, direction, pressure, and temperature, that will tell people what's going on within the storm. And the folks that we have that are monitoring the situation are actually located here in the National Hurricane Center. And I don't see where they're located. They're located in Florida. I think that's right. And just like other weather forecasters, they actually rely heavily on computer models, and they put in conditions that come back from these, for instance, data buoys and the airplanes, to put them into their computer to anticipate what the storm's going to do. And these are the folks then that will put out, just similar like here in the Midwest, we get storm watches and storm warnings. So then also they will put out hurricane watches and hurricane warnings.